Hello friends, welcome back for Ethereum Technical Analysis. I'm Rocky Outcrop, I'm from Scotland by the way, which is why I say Ethereum, and I hope you're all doing really well out there. If you hit that subscribe button, I'll be super grateful to you, and I hope you're having a great day. Now, so we're going to look at Ethereum here, but we're not going to spend ages doing it. I would really encourage you to look at the Bitcoin video, because the Bitcoin video that I've put up already, or maybe it's published ever so slightly after this, depending on upload speeds and whatnot, I really, it's a pretty solid video. So I think that it will benefit you in terms of your trading, even if you're not trading Bitcoin. And I think that if you are trading Ethereum, then the wise thing to do is to look at Bitcoin anyway. In my experience, it's always been very, very helpful. What have we got on the go here in terms of this chart? Well, first off, actually, I wanted to kind of talk about what I talked about in the Bitcoin video and remind everybody that there's actually still this big downward weekly trend. Okay, lows, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, all the way down here, you're talking lows, lower lows, and lower highs. So that's what we have on the go in terms of this high here versus this high here. You've got this hidden bearish divergence as this went up higher and wasn't able to go higher on the price action. So there's hidden bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, and so far we're coming in here and we've not been able to achieve the weekly highs. Now this would be the next target though, and if we want to see things turn around, this 278, 280 area, staying up there for a week or more would invite price action up into the 300s, and it could be quite bullish at that point. We could see a turnaround overall. Zooming in a bit, you can see that the 21 is above the 55, and generally speaking across normal markets, normally the 21 being below or above that weekly trend line is quite good. So as we moved above it here in January 2020, we saw a month of solid upward price action. We moved above it here in April, and we've also had some solid price action towards the upside. Maybe that will continue. That's their most sort of bullish case outlook really for this from the broader perspective, really in general. But there is this hidden bearish divergence there, and that's something to be bearing in mind. Now looking between the lows though here as well, this low and then this low, which is this low and this low, there is bullish divergence, weekly bullish divergence here on the chart. So it's up to you. You've got the two things at once. That the peak that comes in between is this hidden bearish divergence here on this peak, and then you've got bullish divergence on the previous two lows. So will this bullish divergence just merely see the prices coming back up to around about where the previous highs were before falling on down, or will it see it go higher? Those are the questions that we're going to have to ask. Looking down here towards the ADX, you can see the strength of trend has always been diminishing really. It's underneath 20 at the minute, and we might even see it dropping even further down, with the negative going above the ADX line and it coming down towards volatility areas if things don't really start to kind of get a little bit more momentum towards the upside. Now my computer keeps going doodle-loom, so I don't know why. There's obviously something is connecting and disconnecting constantly. I hope it's not affecting the video. If it is, I apologize for that in advance. Let's go down to the 24-hour time frame and revisit what we were just talking about, in terms of divergence and whatnot across a similar amount of candles really, but obviously this is a seventh of the amount of time. Looking from the lows down here in March all the way up to the highs that we have right now, then there are a couple of instances where we've had hidden bullish divergence on the go. The prices haven't come down here and not managed to go down very far, but the oscillators down below showing us that the bears tried to push it down and failed in getting the price action to move down with the momentum that they pushed all their momentum into it, but failed to get it to go further on down the way. So there's something to be bearing in mind. And then looking here towards the top side, if you look between this high, which we had towards the end of April, and then the high that was there in the middle of May, then you could see that there's actually bearish divergence across the tops there. So that similar sort of type of philosophy then. What's been the outcome so far from all of this? Well, we've actually then subsequently to the 12th of May come in, put in a high, a higher low, and then a higher high, and that's happened without the divergence really necessarily having been a big deal here. But we can see here there's this little question mark happening around this time frame at the end, this time, and it's not fair to say that that's a high, low, higher high and a low coming in here, in which case you would say that was divergence. But if we go down another time frame again to the 12 hours, then maybe you could make that same argument looking at the same sort of the same candles when it looks more like high, local low, local high, higher low here on this upward trend action with bearish divergence on the go just there. And if we go down again to the 4-hour time frame, then maybe you're looking at a similar sort of setup where again maybe potentially, as we've spoken about so often in the past recently, you could have a head and shoulders potentially emerging here, and that might be interesting to see. Now, does the volume pattern fit in with that? Not so much. It is diminishing throughout, which is interesting, but there's this kind of egregious price action that happened here on that day with the volatility just the other day. Was it yesterday? Yeah, just yesterday, which makes things, throws them off a little bit. But if you kind of look beyond that candle and just towards the overall shape, then yeah, sure, you could. So that makes a couple of price targets for us more easily identifiable. So we can start to talk about price targets here with this one and then wrap up kind of at 245. Yet again, as we spoke about before, is an interesting area. Should that be your right shoulder, then you could see a head and shoulders appearing here after all. 255, I suppose, would be the next area towards the top side, so that we can undo the risk of a head and shoulders. I'd like to see that happen with volume to confirm that it's not actually going to be a head and shoulders, and for this to come in and not be divergent. As you can see, it's bearishly divergent throughout all of these oscillators down here, and the ADX, which went up above 20 recently, has now started to slope back down towards the 20 area and could kind of taper off at the end of this 4-hour trend, and that would all go hand in hand with the reversal, short-term reversal pattern, short to medium term reversal pattern of a head and shoulders in there. If this is the case, if that turns out to be the case, it's just speculative at the moment. Go back up to the 24-hour time frame, put our drawings back on, and take a look at where we've come and how we've done so far. Well, we did all this and we came up as high as the 253, 255 area. We spoke about that, 256, what we spoke about in terms of the horizontal line, but whatever, close enough is close enough for that on that front. And then we sunk back down again. If you look at this big overall channel that we're more or less been inside this entire time, there was a little bit of movement outside of it at the end of April there, but it amounted to nothing, and we came all the way back down again. Will we see some sort of similar type pattern? Not talking about fractals here, just merely talking about how we would put in a higher low, because this doesn't, like I said earlier, this doesn't strike me as being much of a higher low. Could we come in and have a higher low come in all the way down there towards 220? Well, we certainly could. 220, as we know, is been an area of distinct support and resistance in the past. Going below that, if it happens sooner and whatever else, you could be looking to this line here for support at 215. You could be looking as well at the 220 area, or the 21 will have confluence with it in the next day or two as well. And if we break out, or fake out below this area, we could be looking towards 200. Now, somebody asked me in the comments yesterday, I could load up the video and or the video itself on YouTube and get the comment up and all the rest of it, but you know who you are, Philux. And you ask, could we still be going down to 277? Is that still a possibility? And really, if you think about this, if this all fails, and if we just take a quick look at Bitcoin again and say, look, Bitcoin in a similar sort of arrangement really overall here with this downward sloping line above us, which I didn't talk about in the Bitcoin video really quite so much in terms of this particular setup here. We've come back into this exact triangle area here. Take a measured move off of this sort of thing and stick it over here, you're easily looking down towards the sort of the lower 7,000s area, for instance. So, if this were to break down the way, and if you were to have some sort of Adam, Eve, Adam type pattern here on the go, or maybe just ignore that and call it an Eve and Adam pattern, whatever, or a head and shoulders is really crap, but we're not talking about this. We're just talking about the psychology. If you break down below this clear area of support, and this again, this is from the descending triangle type chat. Now, I spent half an hour talking Bitcoin video, and I do highly recommend you look at it, but I didn't go back to talk about the descending triangle stuff again and again. There's just too much to talk about any given time. But should we break below this from its point of view of a descending triangle, for instance, again, then, which gives you a smaller measured move naturally, but you're still looking down towards the lower 7,200 1,200 area, should that break down the way, then of course at that point, absolutely as well, if these things operate together, then of course you could be looking down the way and saying, well, hey, have we got something on the go that could take us down to any of these targets down below? And we certainly do. The first area to look to, of course, would be 195, 185, then 175 and 166 thereafter. Those are the targets, because like you asked in your question, you've been watching it. Is it still possible? Yes, it's possible. But the first things you need to see happen, of course, are breaking down below 230, 225, etc., etc. And then I suppose at that point you'd be saying to yourself, well, hey, is there something else that we can look to in between for more confluence and information? Well, very much so. If we look at this, if I just make this all white, maybe so it's easier to see and read for you. If we go down below 217, then that's the 236 confirmed. If that happens in around this time here, if we're breaking down below there, then of course then that would be quite that would be a confluence of things happening at once. And then at that point, you could look towards the 382, which comes in at 195, or indeed the 50% retrace area, which is what Dow Jones himself used to always talk about, 50% area there at 177. So that would obviously be a fairly significant pullback after this move towards the top side, as all as part of a continuation for more upward action, just a bullish sort of overall pullback towards these areas. And then of course your biggest target then would be down here at 155 areas where we have the 618 golden pocket. But yeah, you could be looking towards that. Another reason you could look here is the 200 simple. I was going to hit the thing and bring it up. The 200 simple, yep, you see, is here the white dotted line right there on 177. So yes, it's still absolutely a possibility. And if we're looking at the VPVR, you can see that if things do break down below fake out territory, indeed below our previous low, for instance, that you could look to in the 50 simple and the 55 simple, then yes, of course, you'd be looking down towards those areas. And that's going to do us for today. Thank you so much for everybody tuning in. Thank you so much if you like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. I try to put out really good quality videos all the time. I really genuinely care about everybody as a trader out there, part of the community. I really do. And I really hope that you kind of, enjoy that and share it with your friends. A friend of yours is a friend of mine. Big appreciation to everybody who's subscribed and leaves comments and everything else. I really do like that. And if you hit the like button, wow, that helps the channel an awful lot. I'm sure of it. And yeah, another slightly longer video than I planned on putting out, just a bit more. But yes, these videos kind of threw me a bit. So I thought I would put on, kind of calm, collected, detailed conversation with you about the price action, go through a lot of detail together. It's all very much integratable into your own technical analysis. And then, we can come back and revisit this again and briefer in the future, in the next couple of days, things will be briefer, I'm sure, as we look at things. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Do hit those buttons down below. Thanks so much. See you next time.